Hey, David L. Hoyt here. I am the author of the Jumble Puzzle, which I do with amazing cartoonist Jeff Kanarick. I am here in Nuremberg, Germany for Toy Fair. And the nice Jumble players who visit jumbleanswers.com have put together some questions. And I'm going to answer those questions, but rather than just do it in one spot, we thought we'd give you a tour, a little tour of Nuremberg, Germany, kind of at the same time. So we're standing here by this castle. It's part of a castle, but really it's more part of a big wall. So Nuremberg, Germany is completely surrounded by a big, giant wall. And the old city, or the inner city, I guess it's called Old City, is within the wall. And that was, dating back to, I don't even know when, hundreds and hundreds of years. So right now we are inside the wall, in the old city. So we're going to answer a couple questions. The first question we're going to answer is, do I have any set routine or habits or whatever when I make up, come up with a jumble answer? And the answer is, I don't have any real set routine, but one thing I do a lot is I go jogging. I love to go jogging throughout Chicago and look for ideas. So like I will run through neighborhoods and I will look at the signs in the windows, I will look at what's going on, and I'll see like a sign in a bakery and I'll think, could that be an answer? Can that be a pun? Or I'll hear people saying something, or I'll go by, just any business. So what's happening is that the city of Chicago is sort of helping me come up with these ideas. And it's very fun. I've kind of gotten addicted to going for a run and looking for jumble ideas. So that is probably as much of a routine that I have, that I can think of. I don't think there's anything else. So I get to run and do work and lose a little weight at the same time. All right, so we've moved a little bit along the wall in this, in old Nuremberg, and it's very cool. I don't know if you can see this, but there's actually one wall over here, and then there's a wall here, and then anything on the inside of this wall is where the old city is. You can kind of see something up there, which is just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So the second question was, can I share a little bit about the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation? So what happened is I invented a game called Wordwinder. A teacher came up to me and said, you have a really good educational game here. And that kind of led us down a path toward making games for schools and libraries. And then we had a chance to make a giant version of it. So it's called Giant Wordwinder. And it caught the attention of the Chicago Public Library. And 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago now, we started working closely with the Chicago Public Library as part of their ROMS Readers Summer Learning Challenge program. And Claire and I, so Claire's my wife, we traveled throughout maybe 20 different libraries all throughout Chicago, working with kids over the month of July. And it just really opened our eyes. These kids wanted to learn, and it was just so wonderful. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the experiences that we had, but it was being part of that program that made me want to do something important for education. So Claire and I founded the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation, and we've hired a full-time person, and Claire's the director of it. She works full-time, and we're now trying to get Giant Wordwinder and Giant Mathwinder and actually Giant Jumble. We've also created a Giant Jumble game into schools and libraries all throughout the world. And it is just such a wonderful experience, and the team that Claire is building is incredible, and I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it. I feel very fortunate, even though my name is on it, a lot of the work is being done by Claire and her team, and I am very thankful for what they're doing. So the next question is has there ever been a mistake in a jumble puzzle, and how did I handle it? Absolutely, there are mistakes. We have a whole editing team, and every now and then there's a mistake in a puzzle. It just happens. These things are all handmade. I'm putting the stuff together on paper at first before it's all entered in there. We have editors. My parents look at it. Colin, who's using this camera right now to record this, looks at it. Then the editors at Tribune look at it, and mistakes do happen. Although I must say that we're kind of got a streak going where we haven't had a mistake in a while. So we're due for one, I can tell you that. But how did I handle it? It used to bother me. It used to really bother me, but I just know it's inevitable. And Jumble fans are so nice and so understanding, and I just, thank you for being, appreciative, or I greatly appreciate you being so understanding when we do make a mistake. It's bound to happen, and, we try to not let it happen. So the next question is have we ever considered creating a jumble that is much more difficult with more obscure words? Yeah, we've thought about it. The Sunday puzzle is obviously much more difficult, but as crazy as this sounds, we get a lot more emails from people saying that the jumble is too hard. And they're not looking for a more difficult version of the jumble. In fact, I just got a very cute video from Washington, D.C. from a whole group of ladies at a table who were able to track down my mobile phone number and send me a video of them complaining that the jumble had gotten too hard. So, we know that there are people out there who would love this super, super hard version of the jumble. But, right now the Sunday jumble is the hard jumble, and, we've talked about maybe doing a once a month jumble that would be harder. But really, a lot of people like the difficulty level the way it is, and that's kind of the answer. So the next question is, what is my favorite food? Oh, my favorite food, I think, so Colin and I have been talking about it while we've walked to this next location. And I think my favorite food, if I had to pick one food, would be pizza. And that barely beats out hot dogs, which barely beats out chicken strips and chicken nuggets. Those are three things that I love. I try not to eat too much of those things, but I sure love them. So now, since that was a short little answer, Colin can kind of give you a tour here. We're on a street in Old Nuremberg. There's a cool restaurant here that, if it were a little warmer, we'd be sitting outside. So that's it. So the next question is, how often do Jeff and I get to work on puzzles together, and then how do we normally communicate? So Jeff lives in Indianapolis and I live in Chicago, and normally we communicate by email or Skype or phone, but one of my favorite things is when I'm in Indianapolis or he's in Chicago and we do get to work on the stuff together. I love it. We will sit there at a tavern, have a few beers, and come up with jumble ideas, and it's very fun. We probably get to do that once every 6 weeks or so on average, but Jeff and I talk quite a bit, as you can imagine, about jumble. And also Jeff is the president of the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation. So, not only are we talking about jumble, but we're talking about the education stuff, and he's always in communication with Claire and the board of directors. So yes, lots of communication with Jeff. And I love it. I feel very fortunate to have such a great partner. So the next question is, how far in advance do we do these, and do we ever make revisions? So we make these puzzles about 5 to 6 weeks in advance, and that's kind of standard in the newspaper industry. So all the comics and crosswords and columns, they do that just in case something were to happen to the creators. They would have plenty of time to try to solve that problem, or at least that's what I was told in the beginning. It makes sense. I mean, I assume that's why we have to do them 5 to 6 weeks in advance. Although some of the Sunday pages, they lay out like 4 weeks in advance. It's interesting because I've seen emails about that. And then, do we make revisions? As a matter of fact, we just made one a few days ago. We had turned in a puzzle and we misspelled Juneau, as in Juneau, Alaska, and it wasn't spotted till a different editor, after we'd already turned the puzzle in, made a comment about it. So we did have to issue a replacement, and the way that works is when we do a replacement puzzle, we actually have to send out an email to all the newspapers letting them know to re-download the new version. Sometimes they don't always get it and the old version runs, but hopefully most of the time the system works. So the next question is, the Monday puzzle is easier. Is that intentional? Absolutely. They start easy on Monday, they get a little bit more difficult. Friday's usually the hardest, then they get easy again on Saturday, and then the hardest puzzle is supposed to be on Sunday. But we do mix that up a little bit. We get so many emails from people. Sometimes we will get emails that come in within seconds of each other. One person saying that a puzzle was too hard, and another person saying a puzzle was too easy, and they're talking about the exact same puzzle. So it's the best way to do it is to try our best to gradually make them harder. But like I say, some people will find the hardest puzzle easy, and other people will find the easiest puzzle more difficult. So, but the quick answer, absolutely, Monday should be the easiest. So the next question is, has a Jumble fan ever told us a story about how much the Jumble means to them or their family? And the answer is yes, many, many times. So many of these emails that we've gotten or stories from talking to people live have stuck with me. Jeff and I feel so fortunate to be involved in this iconic brand, which has been around for 65 years. So some of these stories date back before we were even involved. But I have so many stories that people have told us that have stuck with me, including one just recently where a fan in San Francisco played the Jumble every day, and he actually he solved the Jumble on the day he died, and it was sent in by his family. Lots of stories like that. Also, there was a woman who was in an accident about 5 years ago and had a brain trauma, and she was using Jumble in her hospital room. And her mom, she was actually a teenager, and her mom would give me updates as to how she was doing, and I sent her a bunch of Jumble books. And then afterwards, I actually got to meet the two of them, and they came to my Red Lion pub, and they talked all about how they played the Jumble every day while she was recovering. But lots of stories like this, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories that I just feel so thrilled. I mean, it's just, it's you know, I don't even have words. I can't even explain how great it makes us feel to know how important Jumble is for people. So thank you very much for playing and, you know, for giving us such, you know, truly wonderful jobs. We really appreciate it. So the next question is, are we working on any new projects, and can we give details? We're working on a bunch of new apps, you know, and we can't really give too many details, but we love making apps. So if you know, we have Just Jumble, we have Just Two Words Plus. We are developing a whole bunch of new apps, and it is really fun. I love the app stuff, and we're also, I wouldn't call it a new project, but there are some major new developments with Wordwinder, getting it into classrooms using smartboards. So we're super excited about that. So not only would the kids be able to play giant Wordwinder, you know, on the 9-foot by 9-foot games that we have, but they would also be able to use big giant smartboards, which are like widescreen TVs in the front of the class, and they'd be able to play other classes all throughout the world. So we're really excited about that, and it's something we've been working on for a while, but now I feel like we're really moving forward with it. In fact, we just did a test yesterday with a class, so it was very cool. So I happen to notice that Jeff made a joking question about me living on a farm because we had 2 farm Jumbles in the same week. So here's what happens. Sometimes I will get on a theme, and you know, so I just happen to be thinking of farm Jumbles. Yeah, maybe I should have separated them, but I like farms. So, you know, I don't see any problem having 2 similarly themed puzzles in the same week, especially a farm one, because I love farms. I think it's great. But when you see that happen, it's just because my brain got on a roll for a particular theme, and that's kind of why. So the next question is, do I use any books making a puzzle? I do not. There's no books that I use. Yeah, that's a quick answer. I know I've been long-winded with everything else, but the answer to that, nope. So the next question is are there forbidden words and like words like manure? Is it okay to use words like manure? A word like manure would be okay. I do try to not use negative words. You know, every now and then there'll be one that someone will perceive as negative. So to be on the safe side, I've just kind of tried to stay away from the negative words. But manure actually unscrambles into another word that's in the dictionary. And it's interesting. I forgot what it was. I tried to memorize it for this, and I cannot remember. But it's a word that is not common, but I could see some people saying, hey, it unscrambles into another word. So that's why manure has not been used. It's a lot harder than someone would think to find words that really only unscramble into one thing. In fact, we learned the other day that lendee, I forgot what it was, but lendee was a word that's not in our dictionary. It's not in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, but people made the comment that one of the words unscrambled into lendee. Colin, what would it be? What would those letters be? Lendee. L-E-N-D-E. L-E-N-D-E. I can't think.
3 E's.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I'm sure you know what we're talking about, because I'm sure someone commented about that. But that's the answer. So the next question is how many people help create these puzzles? So quite a few people help me, but I'm the one always choosing which words and which answers. But the editing process has a whole team of people helping. But when it comes to, deciding what the answer is going to be and what words will make up that answer, that's me, because I love doing it. I enjoy it so much. Okay, we figured out what lendee unscrambled into. I forgot again.
Needle.
No, needle. That's hilarious. So we have to decide, is lendee a common word? I don't know. So the next question was, I forgot, Colin.
Do you take user or reader suggestions?
Yes. So officially, we're not supposed to take outside submissions for legal reasons. It's just kind of it's a rule. But every now and then we'll sneak in one for somebody. But the official policy is no outside submissions. But what we're trying to do is, how in the, I think October, November, we have the guest Jumbler week, where other cartoonists, famous cartoonists, submit their jumble ideas and actually draw the cartoons. Eventually, we'd like to see maybe like every Friday would be Guest Jumbler Week, where we would take outside submissions. So we're working on that. We really hope that we'd be able to implement that, and then it would just be a matter of figuring out how to go through everyone's submissions, because everybody wants to give us ideas. We get emails every day from people asking if they could submit their ideas. So we thought we'd take a little break from the questions and show you where we do a lot of our work here. And I put work, like work. It's not all work. It's called PJ O'Shea's, and it's an Irish pub right on the river. So come on in and we'll show you around. It is a gorgeous Irish pub. Here we go. So as you can see, this dates back a very long time. This is like a castle that has been converted into an Irish pub. So we will make quite a few jumbles right here at this bar. And this table, we've played many games and have done things, and this has kind of become our hangout here in Nuremberg at Toy Fair, and we love it here. So the next question is how did Jeff and I end up getting to be the Jumble author and Jumble cartoonist? So in 1996, I came up with the idea for Jumble crosswords. Not all newspapers carry it, but some do. I think it's in about 120 newspapers. So I started working with Tribune, they own Jumble, in 1996. And then we had an opportunity to do something in 2000 or 2001 where I met Jeff, and I just became in awe of his game inventing and cartooning ability. And then we did a project for Tribune where Jeff drew like 3,000 jumbles for a bar top touchscreen game like you would see at in restaurants and things, and he just amazed everybody. So back then, so this is by 2001, it just became clear that Jeff would be the person to take over for Henry Arnold when he finally retired, and then I had been working with Tribune for since '96. So we just worked our butts off for Tribune, and everyone there is so nice. So we were just the logical choice to take over, because we had already kind of been working with them on all these other side projects. So the next question is are these puzzles tested on anyone before they appear in the newspaper? So the answer is no, sort of. So the puzzles themselves are not tested, but if there's an answer that I think is a good play on words, but I'm not sure what the reaction will be, or I'm not sure if it's difficult, what I will do is I will ask the people at the bar at the Red Lion Lincoln Square pub what they think. So many times when I'm coming up with the order, Monday through Friday, I will ask someone, which of these do you think is the hardest? And I will ask them give them what I think the caption will end up being, and then I won't tell them the answer. So they have to do it with no letters. I'll tell them what the cartoon is going to be about, but they try to do it with no letters. It's very fun for everybody there. And if you're ever in Chicago and want to come join us, it's the Red Lion, Lincoln Square, up on Rockwell at Lawrence, and we're there quite a bit. But that's the answer to the question. So Colin dashed off to go to the last meeting here at Toy Fair while I made jumbles at the Irish pub. And I thought I would show you something as I was walking back to the hotel. This is the fortified wall, and there's part of the castle. So this is sort of the wall for old Nuremberg. And it's really interesting because as I came around the corner, came across this brand new museum, which has only been here for a short time. So it's kind of cool to see, something built 500 years ago, and then something built just in the last few years. So Nuremberg's a great city. If you ever get a chance to come here, I'd recommend just walking around. It's really amazing. So the next question is how do I choose the words that go into the puzzle? So I've been creating this huge database. Whenever I use a word, I mark the exact date that it appears. Now, every now and then I'll make a mistake, I'll forget to enter something, or I'll make like 3 weeks at one time, so I'll repeat a word. But if you see a word within the last 6 months or so, it's been repeated over the last 6 months, it's kind of a mistake. I really try to put at least 6 months in between each word. How do I choose the words? Just by feel. I'm trying to make the Monday puzzles a little easy. I'm trying to make the Friday puzzles a little harder. So when I'm looking for words that haven't been used, or we're looking for new words, and it's a lot harder to find new words actually than it seems. But I just kind of use my judgment as to where they should go in the week. And then also, if I think a particular answer might be sort of a blind solve, an easier puzzle for some people, I will try to mix in 1 or 2 stumpers in there also as far as the words. But that's pretty much it. It's kind of just like whatever I feel like doing, and there is a little bit of a science to it, but not much.
David, there was another question about if the jumble words have to only unscramble one way.
So yes, the jumbles are really only supposed to unscramble one way, but as I've talked about, sometimes there are words, in the instructions it says unscramble into a common word, but what's common to everybody is not common to everyone else. Ask a doctor what's common. Boy, there are so many words in the medical dictionary that are not in the regular dictionary, so I get tons of emails from doctors saying, hey, this word also unscrambles into blah, 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 and to them it's a common word, and I, of course, have never heard of it. So every now and then you will see a word that does unscramble into another word, and it's a judgment call. Sometimes I've thought, the other word is not common. Like this example we used earlier with lendee. Lendee, so there's a lender and then there's a lendee. Lendee is not in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which is why we use needle, right? Yeah, needle, which also unscrambled into lendee. But I feel like that's about it. So the next question is were my parents instrumental in creating the love of words, or my love of words? Absolutely. My dad is a punster, has always been, and I think I grew up as an only child, paying more attention to what adults said than most kids. So certainly my dad's love of puns, and my parents, communicating with other adults, me not having any siblings, certainly certainly helped create a love of words in me. And I truly believe that words are the ultimate power. They can start wars, stop wars, and that's why the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation is near and dear to my heart. I love words, and I hope I can teach children the importance of words. So the next question relates to the type of words that I use. Specifically, someone asks if I use only nouns. So here are kind of the basic rules. It doesn't matter if something is a noun or a verb. I try not to use plurals, word with just an S on the end of it. Also try not to use words that end in ED. I try to get to the, root word, especially if it is a noun. But the reality of it is there's no real set rules to any of this. So you will see nouns, you will see adjectives, you may see some verbs that are not pluralized, but there's definitely no, set thing about nouns in particular. So the next question is, are we going to be having another Jumble event like we had last May? I'm not sure. I hope that we can. It was such a great time. We had about 30 people come to this event at the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation Center for Collaborative Learning. If you want to see what it was like, we posted quite a few photos on the David L. Hoyt Education Foundation's Facebook page. But the answer is, I'm not sure, but I hope that we can have another event, because it was really fun and it went by so quickly we didn't even have enough time to play Giant Jumble, which this time, if we do another event, we're going to play for sure. So the next question, or we think we might be out of order, so we don't know if it's the next question per se, but a question was, what do I like to read and what is my favorite book? My favorite book that I've ever read is The Martian by Andy Weir. I think it's his name. I also love the movie, but the book was even better than the movie. It had a lot more scenes. But my wife and I, we love science fiction. Oh, here comes a train. You can see it. Turn around and see the train. So we're at the airport here in Karlsruhe. I'm getting ready to take the train from here to Frankfurt, and then I'm hopping on a plane and hand-delivering a giant Mathwinder game to a school in Cairo, Egypt. So some of these questions I'll be answering from Cairo when I get there. But back to the question and the answer, science fiction. Claire and I love science fiction, like time travel, space travel, alternate dimensions. That's what we love. Here goes another train. Okay. So I'm supposed to be in Cairo, Egypt right now, hand-delivering a giant Mathwinder game to a school that already has a giant Wordwinder game. And it turns out I got on the train yesterday morning to go to the Frankfurt airport like I was supposed to. And when I got there, there was a problem with my passport. It's a long story. It's actually a glitch in the Lufthansa system. It's a long, long story, but as a result, I am not in Cairo, and I am now here in Karlsruhe, Germany. I kind of hesitated because I've been mispronouncing it. I say Karlsruhe or Karlsruhe, but it's like Karlsruhe, whatever. So this is where Colin lives. Say hi, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
And I'm going to be hanging out here and then headed back on Thursday. The next question was, why do I use American spellings and not Canadian spellings or, UK spellings? One of the cool things, or I think one of the most important things about being a puzzle maker is not to cause confusion. And, you know, with 95% of our audience in the United States, it just made more sense to have one set, you know, system of rules, and we went with the American spelling. If we were to have a Canadian version, obviously we would go with the Canadian spelling. Same thing in the UK. We've talked about doing that, but it's just a lot easier to do it all with the American spellings. So that's it. So the next question is have we ever used jumbled words longer than 6 letters? So not in the classic jumble that appears in a newspaper. That's pretty much always been the same format. 2 5-letter words, 2 6-letter words. But in TV jumble, which is another version of jumble that appears in about 50 newspapers, we actually do go up to 7 letters. And also there's a series called Jumble Brainbusters. It's a series of books, and there's no limit on that. But the answer to the do we you know, use 7-letter jumbles in the classic is definitely no, and there's no plans to really ever change that format. It's been the same format for 65 years, and like maybe another 65 years it'll be the exact same. So the next question is can we make the jumbles any bigger? We hear this a lot from people. So we're making them at the same size they've always been. But what's happening is as the newspaper industry begins to struggle, they've been cutting the size of their paper down and reducing the size of the comic sections. So what's happening is we're getting emails from people saying, hey, I can't read the jumble anymore. I can't even make out the dialogue. And that's because the newspapers are choosing to shrink it down. So we actually do make it in a really good size. It's the same size it was probably 50 years ago. So there's nothing we can do about it. You know, some people have called their newspapers and said, can you please make the jumble bigger? And it's actually worked a few times. I got to see what, oh, it's a bike. I was curious as to what that sound was. So we're here at a really cool place in Karlsruhe. It's just, Colin, if you just want to pan it around a little bit, it's just a park. It's just kind of a cool looking German park. And we're getting ready to go out for a quick coffee. We had to go to the bank, so we're just kind of running some errands before we head back to make some jumbles. That's what I'll be doing this afternoon.
Me too.
So the next question is how did jumble get invented? Now, this actually, Jeff Kanarek knows the whole history of it because he puts it together for some of our events that we do. We kind of do the history of jumble through the ages, and he is way more expert at it than I am. But I do know that it was invented in the 1950s. I don't know the exact date. And it came out in the newspaper, and then eventually the person who invented it sold it to Tribune. So Tribune actually bought jumble from this puzzle maker. And then when his cartoonist person, I think, passed away, Henry Arnold got involved. And then, let's see. Yeah, see, I'm not the best person to ask about the history of it. In short, it was invented. Tribune bought it from the person. That person stayed involved with it right up until his passing. And then Jeff took over for Henry Arnold after Henry Arnold passed away, and then I took over for Mike Argerian after Mike retired. And then some sad news, just recently Mike Argerian passed away as well. But I'm hoping that Jeff Kanarek makes a video explaining a better history of the jumble. So Jeff, if you watch this, please go ahead and fill in all the gaps that I just left. So you may hear some kids in the background. That's Oliver and he's 6 years old, and his 6-year-old friend. So don't be surprised if you hear 6-year-olds laughing and giggling in the background. A question that I get asked a lot is, do I give Jeff like very specific instructions for the dialogue? I give Jeff some very loose instructions. Jeff is so good at coming up with the dialogue for the cartoons that I don't try to tell him what to say, because it's so entertaining for me to see him, to see the cartoons when he's done with them. So I will tell Jeff just a couple of key points. that need to be hit. But when it comes to those clever little things that he's thinking of that make you smile and laugh, that's all Jeff. He is incredible. But seriously, one of my favorite things to do is when he sends the cartoons back to me is to look at them. And I love it. It's such a treat for me to see how he's taken my original vision and made it 10 times better, which he always does. And since I've been working with Jeff now for 16 years, I've seen his drawing style just get better and better and better. It's amazing. I am in awe of Jeff Kanarick and his ability to draw these cartoons. And I'm sure somebody else can figure out how to do my job, but nobody can figure out how to do it as well as Jeff, I feel like. That's kind of it. Okay. So I think we've covered all the questions. If not, someone could just post the question down below and I can answer it. We feel like we've covered them all. But I thought I would introduce Colin, and Colin can explain who he is and how he fits into the Jumble equation.
Hey, I'm on the other side of the camera as David walks around to lean into the picture. I help with the editing of the Jumble along with David's parents. Before the Jumble goes to the paper, it sees 2 passes through the editing, not to mention a pass through Tribune's able editors. And then David and I work together on a lot of game and puzzle projects. We've written 2 books together, 2 calendars. We've got 2 games that we worked on together that are available. So, Lowdown from Mattel, available at Walmart, Toys R Us, and Amazon.com, is a great place to see more of our conjoined work. And that's about it.
And Colin also has become a kind of a video master. So if you go to Giant Wordwinder, or if you search Giant Wordwinder YouTube, all those how to play videos, Colin has put all those together. But Colin lives here in Germany, and it's just a coincidence that the biggest toy fair in the world is here in Germany. So every year I get to come here to Germany, and I stay at Colin's house and his with his lovely wife and 2 boys, and we have a grand old time. But next year we are hoping that Jeff Kanarick will join us. But I'll be seeing Jeff next week at the New York Toy Fair. I think that's about it. But seriously, thank you very much for playing Jumble. Jeff and I certainly appreciate it, and Colin appreciates it. But Jeff and I, we are so honored to be a part of Jumble, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for playing it and for giving us such fun jobs.
Keep on jumbling.